Yo, what is up, my friends? Welcome back into the podcast. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. Guys, today I'm going to be giving you my wide receiver rankings for the rest of the entire season. That's right, these are not specific to the upcoming Week 14. These are rankings from now through the rest of the fantasy football season. And guys, like I said in my last wide receiver rankings video, I'm going to be doing these rankings about every 3 weeks for the rest of the entire season because on a week-to-week basis, the wide receiver landscape just changes so much, and over the course of 3 weeks or a month, it changes tremendously. So it's important to do these videos about every 3 or 4 weeks through the rest of the entire season, and it's actually been a little bit over a month since I did my last wide receiver rankings video for rest of season, so it is definitely time to give you my updated rankings, and I'm going to get right into it, guys. But if you haven't already, real quick, go down and hit that subscribe button below. That's absolutely essential for me to grow my channel so I can continue to give you content throughout the season and off season. And guys, make sure to give me that like if you do enjoy the content today, because that's going to help my channel tremendously as well. All right, guys, I'm going to get right into my number one receiver, and that is Cooper Kupp. No brainer here, guys. This dude is the most dominant fantasy wide receiver that we've ever seen at this point. I mean, nobody has ever put up a season like this. This guy is a lock every week for 10-plus targets and 100 yards. I mean, I can almost tell you without a shadow of a doubt going into any game that Cooper Kupp is going to have 10-plus targets and 100 yards. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak of nature when it comes to fantasy football, and he is getting in the end zone like crazy too because he is the top red zone target in the entire NFL. So he's getting tons of high value touches. He's getting double-digit targets almost every single game. He's in one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. His ability to get open is almost silly. I mean, when you watch these Rams games, this dude is creating 5 yards of separation on his routes on a consistent basis. For whatever reason, he's not the fastest guy in the NFL, but guys just can't cover Cooper Kupp. I mean, this dude is clearly one of the best route runners in the league. He has sneaky game speed, even though he only runs a 4.65 40, and guys just can't cover him. They know that he's going to have double-digit targets going into the game and be the biggest threat on the offense, and teams still don't have an answer for it. This dude is the easy number one wide receiver going forward. Next on my list is going to be Davante Adams. Guys, Davante Adams plays for the Green Bay Packers. He has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. He's on the team loaded with weapons in their backfield, so they're a really good dual-threat offense. And this dude is one of the best wide receivers in the league at making contested catches, if not the. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got all the makings of a true wide receiver one, and he has one of the best quarterbacks in all time in Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. There's really not much to think about here. I thought I would have him as my number one wide receiver going on through the rest of the season, when the season started, but we've obviously seen the emergence of the unstoppable Cooper Kupp, so I got to have Davante Adams at my number two. My number three is going to be Justin Jefferson. Guys, Justin Jefferson, as long as Adam Thielen is going to be out, is going to be one of the most dangerous wide receivers in fantasy football. This dude is a lock every single week for double-digit targets. I mean, even when Adam Thielen was in the lineup, he was getting a lot of double-digit target weeks. As long as Adam Thielen is going to be out, and we're obviously not sure how long he's going to be out yet, but if he's out for a while or even a couple weeks, I mean, Justin Jefferson's target share is going to be absolutely through the roof in those games, and he's one of the best big play wide receivers in all of fantasy football. This dude's one of the best wide receivers in the league. We have a 2-year sample size now. There is nobody who has any chance of stopping this guy, and he is going to be my number three going forward. My number four is going to be Tyreek Hill. I almost want to have Tyreek Hill higher, but these guys I have ahead of him, I just can't put him ahead of these three guys that I have ahead of him. But look, Tyreek Hill is getting a heavier target share than he's gotten in his entire career. So we're talking about a guy that only needs 5 or 6 targets a game to produce true wide receiver one fantasy numbers, and he's having a lot of weeks where he gets double-digit targets now. Now, the targets were down this past week. He only had 5. But in the 4 games before that, he had like 18 targets, 11 targets, 10 targets, 11 targets. I mean, this dude's getting double-digit target share in almost every week, and that combined with having Pat Mahomes throwing him the ball and him having game-breaking upside with his awesome big play ability, he is my number 4 going forward. My number 5 is going to be Deebo Samuel. Guys, Deebo Samuel has had a freaking awesome season. We've seen this dude emerge as a dual-threat player. I mean, this dude is being used as a running back on a lot of plays. I mean, he's having weeks where he'll just line up in the backfield and get like 3 or 4 carries for the team. And, he was a little bit banged up this last game. He didn't play, but I don't think the injury is too serious. He's probably going to be back pretty soon. We obviously have to keep an eye on that, but as long as this guy is on the field, he is a top 5 wide receiver for me. Obviously, The numbers this year are kind of crazy because he doesn't get nearly the red zone usage that a number one wide receiver gets. He's had a lot of his touchdowns on big play receptions and on rushing touchdowns. So it's kind of odd the way this dude is finding a way to produce. It's very different. It's very unique. It's very fun to watch. But the fact of the matter is, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and he has shown no reason this year for us to have him outside of the top 5. This dude is an unstoppable fantasy weapon. Number 6 on my list is going to be Stephon Diggs. Guys, Stephon Diggs is the next biggest red zone target in fantasy football besides Cooper Kupp. He's playing in a very high-scoring offense. He's got a great quarterback throwing him the ball. He's got all the talent in the world. This is one of the best wide receivers in football from a pure talent standpoint. And considering the fact that his touchdown numbers have actually been a little bit down this year for what they should be due to his red zone usage, I see massive touchdown regression coming for Stephon Diggs. We've seen it in the past couple of weeks. This dude's actually starting to get in the end zone pretty consistently. I said this in a video that I made about a month ago that massive touchdown regression was coming for Stephon Diggs. I think this is going to continue to happen. I think he's going to average a touchdown a game for the rest of the entire season. Next on my list is going to be Deontay Johnson. Guys, Deontay Johnson is the alpha in Pittsburgh. I mean, Chase Claypool has all the intangibles of being an alpha wide receiver, but Deontay Johnson is the man in Pittsburgh. He gets 10-plus targets a game. We saw him have another 100-yard performance this past week. He got in the end zone a couple of times. I mean, this dude is one of the best wide receivers in fantasy. I mean, he gets the target share, so we knew that the touchdown numbers would increase as the season goes along. And I see this dude getting in the end zone like crazy going on for the rest of the year. Next on my list is going to be Mike Evans. Guys, Mike Evans has Tom freaking Brady, the GOAT, throwing him the football. He's one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. He's a 6'5", great route running wide receiver who could beat you underneath. He could, he could burn you for a big play. He's a candidate every week to get you a huge play like a 50-yard touchdown catch. It's going to continue to happen this way throughout the season because Mike Evans is completely and totally unstoppable. Tom Brady's unstoppable, as we know. And Mike Evans has just been absolutely dominant this year. So he's my number 8. Right behind him is going to be his teammate, Chris Godwin. We know that Tom Brady loves his slot receivers. Chris Godwin is a very heavy red zone target. He is a top 10 red zone target in the entire NFL, so he's getting tons of high-value touches and a great offense. He's got Tom Brady throwing him the football. He's an extremely talented wide receiver who has awesome run-after-the-catch abilities, so he is my number 9. My number 10 is going to be Keenan Allen, guys. Keenan Allen's numbers this year are actually really disappointing. He finally had that huge game this past week that we were all waiting for, because before that, I don't think he had a top 10 fantasy finish in any of his weeks, which is just so insanely fluky considering the fact that he gets massive red zone usage. I mean, this dude is a top 5 target in the red zone this year. And so his touchdown numbers were extremely disappointing in the first half of the season. But as we know, these things tend to even themselves out. And in the second half of the season, he is probably going to have really good touchdown numbers. We saw the regression start this past week. He had 2 touchdowns. And they use this guy in all of their high leverage situations. If it's 3rd and 9 and the Chargers absolutely need a first down, I can almost assure you that they're going to Keenan Allen because this guy is the most sure thing as far as beating you underneath. And when you really need a 9 or 10 or 12-yard reception to get a first down on a 3rd and long, Keenan Allen is the most sure thing in the NFL if you want to convert on that play. So he is my number 10. My number 11 is going to be Jamar Chase. He's fallen off a little bit this year, but we're still talking about a guy who's come in and just put up absolutely historic numbers in his rookie season. And this guy has all the talent in the world. He has a very good quarterback in Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. Look, this Cincinnati Bengals offense is very explosive. They have tons of weapons. Teams have to stack the box to have an answer for Joe Mixon. There's other wide receivers on the team that are absolutely lethal. And, so all the attention can't be on Jamar Chase. And this is a very good big play wide receiver. Right up there with Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, this is the best big play wide receiver in the entire NFL. And so starting him on a week-to-week basis is an absolute no-brainer. He is my number 11. My number 12 is going to be CeeDee Lamb. Guys, these Dallas wide receivers are awesome. Despite the fact that there are tons of mouths to feed in Dallas, the upside of being in the Dallas Cowboys offense is so tremendous that it supersedes the fact that there are a lot of mouths to feed in the passing game because these guys have awesome scoring upside on a week-to-week basis. All 3 of these alpha wide receivers in Dallas are up there in the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. And CeeDee Lamb is the most heavily targeted wide receiver on the team, thus having the biggest scoring upside. So he is my number 12. Right behind him is going to be his teammate at number 13, Amari Cooper. Guys, Amari Cooper is still the best wide receiver on this team. I know there's a lot of hype around CeeDee Lamb, and he's got that first round draft pick hype, and he's in his second season. A lot of signs point to he's going to be the best wide receiver on the team this year, and he has been so far as fantasy numbers. But I think down the stretch, as the games become more and more pivotal, Amari Cooper is actually going to be the number one targeted wide receiver on this team because he is the best wide receiver on this team. This guy has the size, the speed, one of the best route runners in the entire NFL. And as the situations get more and more high leverage and pivotal, I think that Amari Cooper is actually going to be the number one target on this team. I can't quite have him ahead of CeeDee Lamb yet, just because we've seen CeeDee Lamb outperform him by quite a bit as far as a fantasy standpoint this year. So I have CeeDee Lamb just ahead of him, but don't be surprised if Amari Cooper ends up being the number one receiver on this team down the stretch. Number 14 is going to be T. Higgins, guys. T. Higgins is catching up to Jamar Chase as far as fantasy value in this Bengals offense. Going into the season, I had T. Higgins as being the guy in Cincinnati, and why wouldn't I? I mean, this guy is 6'4". He's an alpha male wide receiver. He is absolutely dominant within the red zone due to his size and contested catch ability. He's got pretty good speed. He's a good route runner. I mean, this dude plays in a great offense. He has everything going for him. Okay, so he's my number 14 going forward. My number 15 is going to be Jalen Waddle. Guys, we know that this is one of the best run-after-catch wide receivers in the NFL already, despite being a rookie. He's getting targeted heavily in a Dolphins offense that's really starting to find their stride and put up more points on a week-to-week basis. This dude is a lock for 8 to 10 targets a week. And in PPR formats, he's absolutely dominant because his catch rate is insane. I mean, this dude is catching like 75% of the passes that are thrown to him this year. So if he's getting targeted, he is converting on an extremely high clip as far as his receptions. So here's my number 15 going forward. My number 16 is going to be Marquise Brown. I mean, what more do you need to know? This guy is one of the fastest receivers in the league. He's got Lamar Jackson throwing him the ball, who is a little bit inconsistent of a passer, but definitely has certain weeks where he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And Marquise Brown is the benefactor of this. He's got scoring upside. He's got big playability like none other. And so he's my number 16. My number 17 is going to be Tyler Lockett. Yes, I am placing Tyler Lockett ahead of DK Metcalf in this offense. I just love his big playability with Russell Wilson. The Seattle Seahawks finally showed this past week that they can actually put some points on the board. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come, and Russell Wilson will become better and better as the season goes on, coming back from his major finger injury. It definitely looked like there was a little bit of a learning curve for him coming back. He hadn't played in a while. The finger was still obviously bothering him. The Seahawks offense was a lot more efficient this past week. Hopefully, Russell Wilson gets better and better as the season goes along, and this should be very good for Tyler Lockett. My number 18 is going to be Terry McLaurin. Guys, Terry McLaurin might be the most complete wide receiver in the entire NFL from a pure talent standpoint. He has got the entire package. I mean, size, absolutely elite world-class speed, elite world-class athleticism, route running ability. I mean, this dude has never had a really good quarterback throwing him the ball in his career, and he still puts up true wide receiver one numbers. This is the sign of a true wide receiver one. Terry McLaurin, I think, can be the most deadly wide receiver in football if he ever had a true number one quarterback throwing him the ball. So the talent alone has him in my top 25. He's my number 18. Number 19 is going to be DK Metcalf, alpha male athlete, kind of comparable to Calvin Johnson as far as his size, his speed, everything like that. And this guy, he's been disappointing in the last month. His numbers just have not been very good. But again, Russell Wilson is just, he's getting back to finding a stride in the offense, and it takes time for these things to take place. I think the DK Metcalf's still going to be really good down the stretch. Number 20 is going to be Mike Williams. This guy has fallen significantly off all of our radars as the season's gone along. And, early in the season, he was converting on so many big plays, and I was trying to tell people, this is a little bit fluky. You can't rely on big plays making your fantasy week and have that last throughout the course of an entire fantasy football season. That's the kind of thing, big play games and multiple touchdown games on, 40-plus yard touchdowns. Those things only happen maybe 3 or 4 times a season for the best of the best big play wide receivers. So I knew that Mike Williams' number would fall off a little bit, but the fact of the matter is, the Chargers offense puts up so many points that his scoring upside is there. We know that he has awesome big play ability. He has one of the strongest arm gunslinger quarterbacks in the entire NFL, and Justin Herbert throwing on the ball. So start Mike Williams with confidence as a top 25 wide receiver. He might be best served as a flex going on for the rest of the season because he's so boom or bust. but he's an awesome flex option because of his weekly upside. Number 21 is going to be Michael Gallup, guys. Michael Gallup is just as talented as CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper. Do not get it twisted. Anybody who watched this Thanksgiving Day game saw him make one of the sickest catches of the entire season in the back of the end zone. Just got his 2 feet down, twisted his body around 360 degrees, high pointed the ball, and made a freakishly awesome catch. This is a wide receiver 1. Do not get it twisted. Michael Gallup is a wide receiver 1, and if he ever has the chance to head an offense as the number 1 wide receiver on the depth chart, he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in fantasy. And considering the fact that he has awesome scoring upside in the Dallas Cowboys offense and is a candidate every week to outperform Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb, I got to have him in my top 25. He's in my 21. My number 22 is going to be DJ Moore. DJ Moore's numbers have been really disappointing since after about week 4 of the season. I mean, he started off really hot and has cooled down significantly since then, but he had a pretty good game this past week. And look, this dude is still getting 8 to 10 targets a game, and he's an alpha male wide receiver, so I've got to have him in my top 25. Number 23 is going to be Hunter Renfrow. Guys, back-to-back 100-yard receiving games for Hunter Renfrow. He is definitely the wide receiver 1 in the offense. Derek Carr loves to get Hunter Renfrow the ball, and this dude is going to consistently see 7 to 10 targets every game for the rest of the season. And so he is my number 23. My number 24 is going to be Darnell Mooney. Guys, this is a very talented wide receiver. And we've really seen him emerge as the alpha receiver in this offense this year. And, the past 4 or 5 weeks, he's been pretty darn consistent and has some awesome fantasy performances, 100-plus yard games and everything like that. So I think you can trust this guy to be a top 25 wide receiver going forward. Just cracking my top 25, last on my list is going to be Van Jefferson. I see a lot of rankings where DeAndre Hopkins is ranked ahead of Van Jefferson and some other guys are ranked ahead of him that just don't belong there. DeAndre Hopkins is not getting true wide receiver 1 target shares. In his past 2 games, he's had 2 targets in each game. Give me a break. This dude hasn't seen double-digit targets in a game this year. So I'm placing Van Jefferson ahead of DeAndre Hopkins. Sue me if you want to, but this dude is in a very high-scoring offense. Not saying that DeAndre Hopkins isn't, but just Van Jefferson plays for one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. Teams have to game plan to stop Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. This leaves even more opportunity for Van Jefferson to eat in this offense. He's an awesome field-stretching wide receiver with great big play ability, and I think that his touchdown upside is higher than most people give him credit for because he's just in such an explosive offense. So he is just good enough to crack my top 25. All right, guys. Those are my updated wide receiver rankings for now through the rest of the season. Again, not specific to Week 14. These are rankings from now through the rest of the entire year, the rest of the regular season of fantasy and the fantasy playoffs. So I hope this video helped. This is kind of to help you reassess wide receiver value for setting your lineup on a week-to-week basis. So I hope this video helped, guys. Take these rankings for what they're worth, and hopefully they help you on your weekly lineup decisions. All right, guys. I appreciate you tuning into the video today, and I will catch you later.